before his death. Now, Moses is like a patriarch, and he's going to bless the people before his death. And if you remember, Jacob did that. Isaac did that. Abraham was the same way. They all did that. And he's going to bestow blessings on the people in a similar fashion that Jacob blessed his children in Genesis 48. Verse 2. And he said, Yahweh came from Sinai and dawned on them from Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran, and he came from the midst of 10,000 holy ones. At his right hand there was flashing lightning for them. Elohim spoke to them from Sinai, Seir, and Mount Paran. Now, when Elohim led them to Paran, he was in the form of a cloud in the midst of 10,000 of the people. That's in Numbers 10, starting at verse 11. Now, it came about in the second year, in the second month, on the 20th of the month, that the cloud was lifted from over the tabernacle of the testimony. And the sons of Israel set out on their journeys from the wilderness of Sinai. Then the cloud settled down in the wilderness of Paran. So they moved out for the first time according to the commandment of Yahweh through Moses. Verse 3 of Deuteronomy 33. Indeed, he loves the people. All your holy ones are in your hand, and they followed in your steps. Everyone receives of your words. Now, that term for holy ones, it is kadosh. And that's what it means, like a saint or a holy one set apart for Elohim's purpose. The context of this passage is clear that it's referring to those who love Elohim and love his Torah and his word. If one follows his Torah, he is kadosh. We see in Proverbs 2, starting at verse 1. My son, if you'll receive my sayings and treasure my commandments within you, make your ear attentive to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding. For if you cry for discernment, lift your voice for understanding. If you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will discern the fear of Yahweh and discover the knowledge of Elohim. For Yahweh gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity, guarding the paths of justice, and he preserves the way of his godly ones. Then you will discern righteousness and justice and equity in every good course. For wisdom will enter your heart, and knowledge will be pleasant to your soul. Discretion will guard you, understanding will watch over you, to deliver you from the way of evil, from the man who speaks perverse things. So, you see, being a holy one is just a matter of being obedient to his Torah. As it says, that makes that person kadosh. Verse 4. Moses charged us with a Torah, a possession for the assembly of Jacob. Okay, you see, the Torah is a possession for his people. It's a heritage for his people. It's a heritage that's to be passed down forever. In Deuteronomy 5, verse 29, we read, "Oh, that they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and keep all my commandments always, that it may be well with them and their sons forever." Deuteronomy 12, verse 28, "Be careful to listen to all these words which I command you, in order that it may be well with you and your sons after you forever. For you will be doing what is good and right in the sight of Yahweh your Elohim." See, now, in reading this, I know for a Christian, for decades, I wanted to do what was good and right in the sight of God. That's what I wanted. I had no idea what to do that. You know, I had no idea. And he says right here, that's all you have to do. Listen to the words he commands you. If you do that, that's his Torah, you'll be doing what is good and right in the sight of Yahweh your Elohim. That's all there is to it. In Deuteronomy 29, verse 29, "The secret things belong to Yahweh our Elohim, but the things revealed belong to us and to our sons forever, that we may observe all the words of this Torah." See, that's what belongs to us and our sons forever. Observing the words of his Torah. Psalm 119, verse 111, I have inherited your testimonies forever, for they are the joy of my heart. Beautiful stuff. And so simple. Deuteronomy 33, verse 5, and he was king in Yeshurun, when the heads of the people were gathered, the tribes of Israel together. Now, Yeshurun is a symbolic name for Israel that is upright and loves Elohim. Verse 6, may Reuben live and not die, nor his men be few. Reuben was exposed to Moab on the east side, and that's probably the reason for the blessing of life and many men, because here they are, Reuben's down here, and they were exposed to Moab on that side right there. Verse 7, and this regarding Judah, so he said, hear, O Yahweh, the voice of Judah, and bring him to his people. With his hands he contended for them, and may you be a help against his adversaries. The blessing that Judah received through his father Jacob was that Judah would be the greatest of the brethren, and that Messiah would come through him. And once again, this is the blessings that Jacob, when he was on his deathbed, and he tells each of his sons and gives them a blessing. And this is what he said to Judah. Genesis 49, starting at verse 8. Judah, your brother, shall praise you. Your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies. Your father's sons shall bow down to you. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, you have gone up. He couches, he lies down as a lion, and as a lion, who dares rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him shall be the obedience of the peoples. And that scepter, that's Messiah, ultimately. Verse 8 of Deuteronomy 33. And of Levi he said, let thy Thummim and thy Urim belong to your godly man, whom you did prove at Massa, with whom you did contend at the waters of Meribah. Now, Levi was to be faithful as Moses was at Massa and Meribah. And at that time, the people all rebelled, and Moses was faithful. And the duties for the Levites are described in verses 10 and 11. Now, the Urim and the Thummim, anybody remember what that is? Sherry says no.
But those are the two stones that help people divine a yes or no answer.
Yeah, they were located in the breastplate of the high priest. Okay? And Elohim would use those to answer questions to the people. We don't know what the words mean, Urim and Thummim. And I don't know how to pronounce them, but I'm guessing. But they think it stands for light and perfection. And it would apparently, they would give a yes or no answer somehow. I don't know how that worked, and we're not told. We're given no specific details about them. Okay? It's not a pair of dice. We don't know what they look like. We don't know if they were pink with blue polka dots or what. Okay? If they were solid gold or if they were gems. We don't know anything about them. There's a good reason for that. Every time I bring this up, I give you the same reason. If we're given a very detailed description of those two things, you go to Walmart and buy them for $5.95. So, yeah, it's not giving details on that at all. Verse 9, who said of his father and mother, I did not consider them, and he did not acknowledge his brothers, nor did he regard his own sons, for they observed your word and kept your covenant. This is referring to the time when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments on the two tablets, and the people were in sin. Now, the men of Levi, at that time, they had to do some cleansing of the people. That was in Exodus 32, starting at verse 26. Then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, whoever is for Yahweh, come to me. And all the sons of Levi gathered together to him. And he said to them, thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, Every man of you put his sword upon his thigh, and go back and forth from gate to gate in the camp, and kill every man his brother, every man his friend, and every man his neighbor. And the sons of Levi did as Moses instructed, and about 3,000 men of the people fell that day. Then Moses said, dedicate yourselves today to Yahweh, for every man has been against his son and against his brother, in order that he may bestow, a blessing upon him today. So the Levites took righteousness beyond bloodline. Okay, they killed their father, their brother, or whoever was in rebellion against Elohim at that time, and they're being honored for that. Verses 10 and 11 of Deuteronomy 33. They shall teach your ordinances to Jacob, it's talking about the Levites, and your Torah to Israel. They shall put incense before you and whole offerings on your altar. O Yahweh, bless his substance and accept the work of his hands. Shatter the loins of those who rise up against him and those who hate him, so that they may not rise again. The Levites were to be the teachers of the people. They were also to tend to the tabernacle and to the offerings. Verse 12. And of Benjamin he said, may the beloved of Yahweh dwell in security by him, who shields him all the day, and he dwells between his shoulders. Now, the site of the future temple is in Jerusalem, which is in the territory of Benjamin, actually. Verses 13 and 14. And of Joseph he said, blessed of Yahweh be his land, and the choice things of heaven with the dew and from the deep lying beneath, and with the choice yield of the sun, and with the choice produce of the months. Now Joseph is represented by his two sons. That's Ephraim and Manasseh. And they'll have some of the choicest parts of the land. Verses 15 and 16. With the best things of the ancient mountains, and with the choice things of the everlasting hills, and with the choice things of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the bush, let it come to the head of Joseph, and to the crown of his head, of the one distinguished among his brothers. Joseph was separated from his brothers, if you'll recall, when he was sold into slavery. The sons of Joseph were blessed through his faithfulness to Elohim. Verse 17, as the firstborn of his ox, majesty is his, and his horns are the horns of the wild ox, and with them he shall push the peoples, all at once to the ends of the earth. And those are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and those are the thousands of Manasseh. And it's a blessing once again for Joseph through his two children, Ephraim and Manasseh. Verses 18 and 19. And of Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going forth, and Issachar in your tents. They shall call peoples to the mountain. There they shall offer righteous sacrifices, for they shall draw out the abundance of the seas and the hidden treasures of the sand. Zebulun was assured success in commercial dealings. That included sea trade, and also Issachar in agricultural pursuits. Verse 20, and of Gad he said, blessed is the one who enlarges Gad. He lies down as a lion and tears the arm, also the crown of the head. Then he provided the first part for himself, for there the ruler's portion was reserved. And he came with the leaders of the people. He executed the justice of Yahweh and his ordinances with Israel. Now, Gad got a piece of land fit for a ruler, but he still helped the other tribes in the conquest of Canaan. Verse 22, and of Dan he said, Dan is a lion's whelp and leaps forth from Bashan. Dan, he's like an aggressive lion's whelp. A whelp is a cub, by the way. And he established a foothold in Bashan in the north, and though his original allotment was in the south. Verse 23, and of Naphtali he said, O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full of the blessing of Yahweh, take possession of the sea and the south. Naphtali occupied the fertile land west and south of the Lake of Galilee. So that's where they're laid out, Asher, Naphtali, Zebulun. Now you see, Jericho and Jerusalem, actually the Temple Mount is located there that little piece of Benjamin. Verses 24 and 25, and of Asher he said, more blessed than sons is Asher. May he be favored by his brothers, and may he dip his foot in oil. Your locks shall be iron and bronze, and according to your days, so shall your leisurely walk be. The territory of Asher is known for its olive oil. And Asher would be given strength to secure Israel's northern border. So you can see them up there. Verses 26 and 27, there is none like the Elohim of Yeshurun, who rides the heavens to your help and through the skies in his majesty. The eternal Elohim is a dwelling place, and underneath are the everlasting arms. And he drove out the enemy from before you and said, destroy. Elohim, as he says here, is a refuge for his people. History bears out that fact that Elohim is the only reliable source of security. He's the only reliable source. You know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, could you ever imagine the country would be like it is now? We're on the verge of who knows what. I never thought that. I didn't think in my lifetime I'd see that. Elohim is the dwelling place. That's where security is. It's not any place else. Yeshua stated that same desire for Jerusalem, by the way, when he was lamenting over the soon-to-come destruction of Jerusalem in Luke 13, verse 34. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, just as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you would not have it. Verses 28 and 29. So Israel dwells in security, the fountain of Jacob secluded in a land of grain and new wine. His heavens also drop down dew. Blessed are you, O Israel, who is like you, a people saved by Yahweh, who is the shield of your help and the sword of your majesty. So your enemies shall cringe before you, and you shall tread upon their high places. Well, we have your definition of Israel. Okay? Israel is the people saved by Yahweh. That's who Israel is. The Exodus showed the people that they were a chosen, undeserving people by Elohim. This election gave them confidence when they were confronted with their enemies. And if we are, saved, if we're, as it says there, if we're a people saved, that means we're a part of Israel. Chapter 34, verse 1. Now Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which is opposite Jericho. And Yahweh showed him all the land, Gilead, as far as Dan. Moses is now told he's to go to the top of Mount Nebo and look at the promised land and then die. They have some church up there now on top of Mount Nebo in honor to Moses. That was built about late 4th century.
Where's the people? I don't see no houses.
Yeah, it's a ways away. And all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh and all the land of Judah as far as the western sea, and the Negev and the plain and the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees as far as Zoar. Now, they're trying to point out here where certain things are. The Dead Sea is to the left, and Jerusalem, and then Jericho, and then the Sea of Galilee to the far right. And when you're up there, they have one of these things that'll point things out for you where they are, which is interesting.
Have you ever been to Israel?
Never been.
Have you, John?
No.
Verse 4, then Yahweh said to him, this is the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I'll give it to your descendants. Now I've let you see it with your eyes, but you shall not go over there. Well, now, we don't know the precise spot of the burial of Moses, but we're told in the letter from Jude that there was later a conflict for his body. Now, Jude, this is an interesting little quote here. In Jude 1, Let's go over here first. Verses 5 and 6. So Moses, the servant of Yahweh, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yahweh. And he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor. But no man knows his burial place to this day. Now, I thought it was interesting that this quote in Jude, and there's only one chapter in Jude, it's verse 9. But Michael the archangel, when he disputed with the devil and argued about the body of Moses, did not dare pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, the master rebuke you. Okay, where did Jude get that? It's not in Torah. It's not in the scriptures. It came from a writing called The Assumption of Moses. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about that writing is that it's really not any older than Jude's letter. It's from that same time frame. That's where it came from. Doesn't it seem strange that Jude would quote something like that and it's not in Scripture? Now, people say, well, maybe there's a lost book. Maybe the Assumption of Moses is something that should be in Scripture, but there are no ancient copies of it. Nothing certainly back in Moses' time like we have with the Torah. So why would, and does it sound like a little bit of a strange story to you? Michael the archangel and the devil started yelling at each other about the body of Moses. And Michael didn't pronounce against him a railing judgment, but said, the master rebuke you. I don't know, I just don't know anything about that. Yeah.
This long shot, maybe they're talking about the body, the people of Moses. You know, the body.
Oh, that's interesting. The people of Moses. That could be. Okay, here's what I found interesting. Here's my conclusion about this whole thing, this quote here in the writing, The Assumption of Moses. You know, 2,000 years ago, you couldn't go to the store and buy one of these. What did they have for scriptures? You may not have any in the whole town. What about any written material? What about the public library? Right. What did they have? They had, mostly it's oral teaching is what they would have. But if you did have written teaching, what would you do? You keep it. Okay? Now, whoever Jude was writing to, and he's writing to, this was apparently the Assumption of Moses was a fairly popular thing in that day. Fairly. And there may have been copies around. So he referred to it to make a point.
Did they have ink back then?
Ink?
How did you write with?
They wrote with something. You just cut your wrist a little bit and you get red ink.
I didn't know if it was all carved in stone or what.
No, it wasn't carved in stone. It would be on skins and so forth. I think Jude in 2 Peter did the same thing. He quoted from a pseudepigraphal writing also, and I think it was just because it was popular in that day. Okay, it's something that people could relate to. They had it, and Jude here was trying to make a point about pronouncing judgment, and he just used that to make his point. So that's my thought. Anybody got a different thought? Verse 7, although Moses was 120 years old when he died, his eye was not dim, nor his vigor abated. Moses had a staff, but it wasn't a cane. He didn't need a prescription. Moses' death was not due to physical weakness or physical illness. His death was due because his purpose was finished. He went up a mountain to die. So the sons of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. Then the days of weeping and mourning for Moses came to an end. Well, there was apparently a 30-day period of weeping and mourning for Moses, and that corresponds to the amount of time of mourning they had for his brother Aaron too. Verse 9, now Joshua the son of Nun was filled with the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him, and the sons of Israel listened to him and did as Yahweh had commanded Moses. So Joshua was filled with the spirit of wisdom. Moses had already laid his hands upon him and commissioned him with some of his authority. That was back in Numbers 27, starting at verse 8 or 18. So Yahweh said to Moses, take Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom this is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him, and have him stand before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and commission him in their sight. And you shall put some of your authority on him in order that all the congregation of the sons of Israel may obey him. Moreover, he shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire for him by the judgment of the Urim before Yahweh. At his command they shall go out, and at his command they shall come in, both he and the sons of Israel with him, even all the congregation. And Moses did just as Yahweh commanded him, and he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest, and before all the congregation. Then he laid his hands on him and commissioned him just as Yahweh had spoken through Moses. Now, this is where the practice of the laying on of hands commissioned authority, and that's what it is. It's just commissioning authority to this guy. It's nothing magical about it. The Spirit of the Father didn't run through Moses' hands onto Joshua's head or anything. It was before the people to show that Moses is giving him authority. Verse 10, since then no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom Yahweh knew face to face. Well, this part of Deuteronomy probably was written by Joshua, by the way, this last chapter. We know Moses didn't write it. But no prophet had arisen in Israel like Moses, and at that time that's true. They're looking for that prophet like Moses. You remember him? He's the one from Deuteronomy 18. Starting at verse 15, Yahweh your Elohim will raise up a prophet for you like me, being Moses, from among you, from your countrymen, you shall listen to him. This is according to all that you asked of Yahweh your Elohim in Horeb on the day of the assembly, saying, let me not hear again the voice of Yahweh my Elohim. Let me not see this great fire anymore, lest I die. And Yahweh said to me, they've spoken well. I'll raise up a prophet from their countrymen like you, and I'll put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him. And it shall come about that whoever will not listen to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. Okay, so Elohim already tried communicating with the people from the top of Mount Sinai. Okay? And what happened? Well, the top of Mount Sinai melted. There was fire. The earth shook. There was a huge storm. And the people said, we are going to die. And Elohim said, you're right. You're going to die if I keep talking to you. You're all going to die. So, instead of talking to you this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a prophet like Moses. And he is going to speak my words, which I will put in his mouth. So what he did was make his word become flesh and become a prophet to speak the words of the Father. That's what he did. He said, listen to him. And if you don't listen to him, if you don't listen to my words, which he shall speak in my name, I myself will require it of him. He says that he spoke face to face with Moses. And that's how he spoke with Yeshua too. It doesn't mean that they looked at each other face to face. It means he spoke directly to him. Okay, it's a figure of speech. With all these other prophets, it was through visions, it was through dreams, it was through events that would happen, is how he spoke to them. But with Moses and with Yeshua, it was face to face. That is the way of communication that can't be denied. Can't be misinterpreted. Verses 11 and 12. For all the signs and wonders which Yahweh sent him to perform in the land of Egypt against Pharaoh, all his servants and all his land, for all the mighty power and for all the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel. See, Moses was not perfect. He had sin. But Elohim performed great signs and wonders through him. And since Moses, there was only one prophet who performed signs and wonders that displayed the power and might of Elohim to that extent. And that prophet was Yeshua. We read in John 2, verse 11, this turning water into wine was the beginning of his signs Yeshua did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory. And his disciples believed in him. That manifested the glory of the Father. His miracles did. In John 2, verse 23, now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in his name, beholding his signs which he was doing. And in John 20, verses 30 and 31, many other signs, therefore, Yeshua also performed in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these have been written that you may believe that Yeshua is the Messiah, the Son of Elohim, and that believing you may have life in his name. And once again, that term believing, we just saw what the Hebrew word for believing is. Now, this is Greek, but the Hebrew word for believing is amon, and it means to be faithful. Okay? And that in being faithful, you may have life in his name. Now, in some printed texts of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah is concluded after this verse with these words: be strong, the 5/5 of the Torah are completed, praise to Elohim, great and fearful. Any questions on Deuteronomy 33 and 34 or anything else?